Hi, I'm Kendra Cameron Jarvis. I'm a blended learning coach for Buncombe County Schools. Welcome to Google Slides Adventures. Our goal today is to deepen learning by adding some fun. So during this presentation, you can make it interactive and level up your learning by clicking on this little notepad here. It will open a copy of a Google document that you can type on digitally, or if you like, you can print and write on as we go through this presentation. What you'll want to look for is little red circles that say level up, and they have questions that will deepen your learning as we learn more about gamification. So make sure that you make a copy for yourself, and once you've done that, let's get started. So there is some terminology that you'll need as we go through this presentation. So there's two types of gamification. One is gamification, and the other is game-based learning. So gamification simply is applying the elements of game design in a non-game setting, such as instruction and training. The learning experience is supported by adding in elements typically associated with games. So things like putting on a timer when kids are doing problems, or working in groups to complete a task. That timer is used in real games. So it's using timers, it's using dice, things like that, maybe giving points. That is what gamification is. So it's using those elements in a non-game environment like school or in the business world, right? On the other end of that is game-based learning, or GBL. So this is when learning occurs through gameplay. So the game itself is a learning experience, and by playing the game, students reach the instructional objectives, standards, or learning targets. So this is what we would use like Kahoot, or quizzes, or Gimkit, or Blookit, or Minecraft. So the actual learning is within the game. It can also be non-digital. So there are some coding games out there for little kids, and I can't remember the name of it, but it teaches coding through the board game. So it's not just digital, it can also be analog. So those are the two types of gamification, I guess, vocabulary that you'll need as we go through this presentation. So these are just some quick examples. So for gamification, it would be using things like badges, which a lot in our professional development now, you can earn a badge to showcase your learning. Badges are part of the gaming world. Point systems, like we talked about, and leaderboards. All of these things can be applied to a non-game environment like school or training, professional development, and so forth. Even exercise. So most of us have some sort of smart watch, right? Mine is a Garmin, but I set goals and earn points for the steps that I take, right? It will track how many days in a row I meet my step goal. And then when I meet it, it celebrates with visuals on the watch. You probably have something like that as well. So game-based learning and actions are like those educational board games that we talked about. We probably all play Jeopardy in our classroom to review content, or even immersive digital experiences such as learning math concepts by playing Minecraft, or it could be those digital breakouts. So this is your first level up. So Remember when we first started, I said, look for those red circles that say level up. This is your first one. So on that piece of paper, whether you print it or it's digital, go ahead and take a moment and answer this first question. What else can you add to the list of gamification examples or game-based learning examples? You may want to pause this video for just a moment. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you added to that list of examples of gamification or game-based learning. So this is our agenda today. We talked quickly about what is gamification. Now we're going to move into why use gamification and its benefits. We're going to look at where gamification is all around us, because it's not just in the education world or the gaming world, but it's in our everyday lives. Then we're going to move on to something I created called Google Slides Learning Adventure. There are 3 of these learning adventures that you're going to have the opportunity to peruse. The first one is Trekking Everest, focuses on Mount Everest, climbing Mount Everest. The second one is the Great Pyramid Adventure, where you embark on an adventure in the ancient pyramids and discover what lies inside. And the third one is a scientific adventure, the Galapagos Island Adventure, where you're going to sail the high seas to the Galapagos Islands and get familiar with all the exotic plants and animals that live there. Then you're going to have an opportunity to look at your learning target and your standards and plan and build your own Google Slides learning adventure. We'll talk about some tech skills that you'll need in order to be able to create your own Google Slides learning adventure. And I have some videos that will walk you through those tech skills. We'll also discuss some questions and things to consider. And then I'm going to leave you with some resources. So this is our roadmap today. And at the top, I forgot to tell you, you can access this presentation at bit.ly/gamification.edu. So this is the why. This came from some research. Why use gamification in the classroom? Educators seeking to tap into the powerful, motivating effect of games have found that using games and game elements in educational context can motivate students to put forth more effort and can improve learning outcomes as a result. So think about the games that you've played. When I think about games, I think of Atari. I am that old, like Frogger. Some of you probably have no idea what that is. I think those were the first video games I ever played. But I also think about Super Mario Brothers. I think about Carmen Sandiego, Where Are You? And I think of board games. Like in my house, we like to play the game of life, Monopoly. I love playing Uno, and other games as well, from something very simple to something more complex. But think about those games that you played growing up and even games that you play now. There are various levels of difficulty and challenge in the games, and part of the gaming experience is the failure. But the interesting thing is the challenges are not so challenging or so difficult a task that we can't accomplish them. What happens is we get closer and closer each time, and we keep coming back to games because they motivate us to try again. And we want to grasp the same concept and use it in the classroom so students fail forward and they have the motivation to dust themselves off and stand up and try it again, just like they do in their games, their video games. So here is your second level up. So again, if you printed that note-taking guide or you're using it digitally, this is your question to level up your learning. What elements of gamification were used in this ad? So this ad, let me set the scene, is a 007 Coke Zero video ad. They were advertising for Coke Zero. But it was also during the time that 007 Skyfall movie was coming out. And so they set this up in a busy, I think it was a train station. And these are normal people. These are not actors. And it was an experiment. They wanted to see what happened if they added a little of those gamification elements into buying a Coke. So let's see what happens. All right, so I hope that as you watch that, it made you smile. I smile every time I watch that, because think about it. If you're those guys and you're just going in to buy a Coke, you don't expect any of that. And they played along, and they looked like they had a great time. So let's think about it. What elements of gamification were used in this ad? So hopefully these are some things that you wrote down, and I may not list everything that you wrote down. You probably saw things that I didn't see. So one thing is there were challenges, right? There were tasks that they had to accomplish. There was a timer, right, which we talked about timers before. There was music, which brought in the other senses, right? Some of the challenges we saw was the lady in the red dress, right? She was an obstacle. All the dogs, the glass, right? I'm trying to think, the oranges. Maybe I'm missing another one. I can't think of the other ones. You probably know what they were, but there were quite a few of the challenges, right? And there was a narrative, right, that was going along. They had they had to earn those tickets by doing several things, and they took on that persona of 007, right? It was funny to watch that guy leap over the oranges. And there was a social aspect at the very end when they had to hum or sing the song, right? They started off, but then everyone joined in around them. So it was that social element and also that social celebration. So you probably saw some other things that maybe I missed or just didn't share, but think about your real life. What elements of gamification are in your real life? We already talked about our watches, right? If you've got a Fitbit or Garmin or an Apple Watch, it gamifies exercise, right? Which I just read an article about that. This lady decided to work out for 365 days, and they asked what was one thing that motivated her, and it was closing the rings on the Apple Watch, which if you're not an Apple user, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I think there are 3 rings, and you close the rings by the amount of exercise or minutes of being active each day. And so that was truly motivating for her, but it gamified her exercise routine for her. If you think about like just shopping in general, most places have some sort of MVP card where you can earn points every time you spend money, and then you get rewarded for those points. So like at one of the grocery stores I use, I have a grocery store card, and I earn points every time I spend money. And then once I get to a certain level of points, I can go to their gas station, and it will take some money off of the price of gas for me, which right now is amazing. So there are all sorts of ways that businesses are gamifying things for us. And you can probably think of lots of other ways too. But if you really stop and think about it, it's pretty much in every part of our everyday life. So here's your next chance to level up. So continuing on the theme of it's all around us, think about your favorite apps. What elements of gamification are used in your favorite apps? What apps do you use every day? And just take a moment to hit pause and think through this. All right, welcome back. So hopefully you took a few minutes to think about your favorite apps and how those apps are gamified. And they certainly are. So when I first had this conversation, I thought about Twitter, because I use Twitter pretty much every day. And one of the things that Twitter does to suck you back in there, just like games do, is their notifications, which of course you can turn off. But it notifies you, or it dings every time someone mentions something, mentioned your name, or they like something, right? Or they tweet something towards you. And so that in itself is an element of gamification. That notification. It's also that social piece when they like something of yours. There's also kind of a leaderboard on Twitter. You can, when you click on anyone's handle, you can see how many people they're friends with, right? And then they come out with a list every year of like the top ed tech influencers and things like that, which in itself is a type of leaderboard. So as you think about your apps, what are elements that those apps use that are elements of gamification? You probably have thought of different things that maybe I haven't thought of. So just very quickly, these are the benefits of using gamification. It increases levels of engagement in the classrooms. It improves knowledge absorption and retention because you practice over and over again, right? It gives learners the opportunity to see real-world application, and it enhances the overall learning experience for all age groups. Sometimes you can kind of do this, you can teach the same standards, but you can teach it in more of a traditional way, and that's not going to engage some of those learners. But you add an element or 2 elements of gamification to whatever it is you are going to do, whether that's a worksheet and you add dice, and then when they roll the dice, they answer certain questions, or you add a little bit of competition, so they work in pairs or groups, and they have to answer so many questions in so much time, and the winning group gets a prize or points or whatever. Just adding those simple elements of gamification to something you're already doing can increase the engagement. So as I was thinking about gamification, and all of this came about during COVID, my daughter was in middle school, and she was all virtual. And one of the things that I noticed that was after she completed her lessons that day, the first thing she would do is she would open her iPhone and she would get on this app called Roblox, Roblox. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but it's a series of immersive games. So there are a ton of them that she can jump into and play. Within those games, she can meet up with her friends virtually and they can chat. They earn points. They can track their progress. And there's lots of choices in those games, and there's always a narrative. One of the games is based on schools, high school, so she can pick her classes, and she's actually got questions that she's got to answer, and she gets points for answering them right, and all sorts of stuff. There's another one that's called Adopt Me, where they adopt animals, and they get houses and cars. It's almost like a light version of Sims, right? If any of you are familiar with the Sims game. But there are tons of them. But I was intrigued because she had spent most of the day on the computer doing work, and then she jumped right into this, and she was so engaged with Roblox, and it was a way that she could connect to her friends during COVID. And I started thinking, how can we take these aspects that my middle school kid and other middle school kids and high school kids love about Roblox and Minecraft and all of those things that they are engaged with, the gaming, how can we add those elements to our school, our lessons, our learning targets, our standards, to really engage students with their learning? And so these are the 4 guiding questions that I created. So where can I add a social aspect to my lesson? Because gaming is better when it's social, and all of the online games have that social piece where they can connect. Either they can talk to each other in a microphone, or they've got a chat piece. How can I add some competition either with others or with myself, or track progress? All games have that piece. How can I add choices? Because every game has choices, and that builds that student agency. And then also, how can I add a sense of adventure or a mystery to my lesson with that emotional connection or that compelling narrative? So all games have some sort of narrative, and they use music and visuals and colors and graphics to kind of suck you in. How can we do things like that? Add elements like that to make our lessons really engaging. Going back to it's all around us, think about when you go to the grocery store. You're going up and down the aisles, and there's tons of things that you can buy. So say you're looking for a box of cereal. We have lots of choices in cereal. How do you choose the right one? Well, you're going to probably look at the ones that are colorful, have great visuals, are packaged well, right? Draw your eye, and maybe have specific things on them. So depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking for organic or you're looking for healthy, you're going to be looking for those things. But it's the packaging. The packaging is what draws us in. And so as educators, we have to think about our packaging of our lessons. What are things that we can do or add? 1 or 2 things, simple things, they're going to draw kids in, our students into our content and make it more engaging. So in just a moment, you're going to get to choose on one of 3 adventures, and you're going to take on the role of a student. As you go through the Google Slides adventure that you choose, I want you to think about these guiding questions. Where is there an element of social aspect inside the Google Slides adventure? Where is there an element of competition or ability to track progress? Are there elements of choices? And is there an element of a sense of adventure or a mystery? So these are the things that you're going to look for, those guiding questions. You're going to see if these things are in there. And if they're not, how would you add them into that specific Google Slides adventure? So again, you have an opportunity to level up in just a minute as you click through whichever Google Slide adventure you choose to explore. You're going to take notes on these elements on that document. So go ahead, if you want to, pause the video, get yourself ready, and we're going to go to the next slide. All right, so now you get an opportunity to explore one of the Google Slides, or if you want to, more than one of the Google Slides adventures. Remember, as you go through each adventure, you're going to look for these big ideas, and you can use that note-taking guide to jot down your ideas. So here's the 3 adventures. The first one on the left is trekking Mount Everest. The one in the middle, number 2, is discovering the Great Pyramids. And number 3 focuses on science, and it's sailing to the Galapagos Islands. So each of these adventures takes students on a learning trek. Along their way, there's going to be activities for them to do, and each of these immerses the student in the place by offering a 360 immersive experience. So this is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to click on Everest and just walk you through a few things to get you started. So when this first opens, I ask students to view it full screen. And then along the way, they'll see little text boxes that they're going to have to type in. So I ask them to hit escape out of presentation mode so that they can create a text box and type in those areas. Each of these adventures starts with a cover image, and it has some music or some sound effects. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. So you hear the crunching of the footsteps as they trek up the mountain to discover Everest, or to summit Mount Everest. So remember when we were talking about that grocery aisle, looking at all the cereals? It really matters about the packaging. The same with this learning experience. It's all about the packaging to suck kids into the content. So the more that I can appeal to their senses by adding visual effects and sound bites and music, the better engaged they're going to be. So they all start this way with that cover art and some sort of sound effect or music. And then they have this page, and this is similar. I think it's the same on all of them. It's just instructions, just like a video game or a board game would have instructions, so does this. So it's very simple, and this is icon based. So it explains what these 3 icons mean. So the green one indicates that there's an embedded 360 video where they can really immerse themselves in the place, so they can use their finger or mouse and move around Mount Everest and see what it looks like in real life. If they see the link, that means they click on it and links them out to another website. And when they see the tent, if they click on it, it takes them back to the progression slide so that they can track their progress. All right, so this is where I ask you to pause me and then just explore one or more of the Google Slides adventures. All right, welcome back. I hope that you enjoyed being a student and exploring one or more of the Google Slides adventures. Hopefully you were able to determine which one of those big ideas, or if all of them were in the Google Slide adventure that you reviewed. Hopefully you also jotted down some ideas of things that you might add or you might change. So you're going to have the opportunity to build your own. And before we start building, there's some kind of big ideas that you need to think about. The first is determine your audience. Define who will play your Google Slide learning adventure and how familiar the players are with the content. Where are they starting from? What is their background knowledge? Determine your purpose. Figure out if the game or lesson will introduce, explore, or review concepts. Where does it fit in that learning cycle? Determine your design. Decide how your game or lesson will engage your audience. Will it lure audience into learning the right way? Will it provide opportunities for choice, student agency, and failure, that ability to fail forward and try again? Will the player have a chance to achieve mastery? Determine the types of relationships. Establish if and how players will work together, that social piece, and whether you will provide an opt-out or opt-in choice that you see sometimes in games. All right, so here we go. What are your learning objectives? What activities do you want your students to do? What online resources will you need? All of these things you need to think about and have jotted down somewhere, planned before you get started building. So I've created a folder for you and it's got everything that you will need to build a sample Google Slide adventure. So you'll want to click here and make a copy. And inside this folder, you've got, let's open up each of these documents. You've got some links, okay? And these are just links to everything that we've looked at so far. Here's the Drive link, here's Everest, Pyramids, Galapagos, okay? You've got the original Angerwatt template. You've got a storyboard template if you want to storyboard things out. That's kind of what I did when I first started. I just kind of used this as a starting point. Let me open this up. So it says shot here, but I put slide 1, slide 2, and then I just copied and created and pasted and created more of these little boxes and descriptions. So I would kind of put here what I wanted on it, and then the activities that students were going to do to achieve whatever that learning target was. So this is kind of how I kind of thought things out. This is the student version, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This is a temple bell sound. So remember in Everest, we had the crunching, right, of the feet. This one is a bell, because today our students are going to travel to Cambodia. And then this is a list of where do I find resources, okay? So these are some different things that you might think of, different places that you can go to find 360 videos, interactive elements, free images and music, just a list to get you started, okay? All right, so when I first started my first Google Slides adventure, I realized that I needed to start with a teacher or the original template and a student template, because what I was going to do is I was going to put everything on the original template that I did not want students to move or be able to interact with, okay? And I would put it on the slide, and then I would download it as a PNG image, okay? And then I would upload it as the background image to the student slide. So let me go ahead and open up some of these things. Okay, so here's my original, and here's the student. Okay, so let me move this over. All right, so see how I can edit this information? I didn't want students to edit. I wanted everything on here. I wanted to be able to edit in the teacher version, but once I got it the way that I needed it to be, I wanted it to be a background image for the student version so that they couldn't do anything with it. They couldn't change anything. So what I did here is for instance, once I got this the way I wanted it, okay, I went to File, I went to Download, and I went to PNG, okay? And that is an image file. So I'm going to download that as a PNG. Okay, so there it is. And then I'm going to go to my student version. I'm going to go to that same slide, and we're going to pretend that this is not on here. Okay, and I'm going to upload it as the background. Okay, so I'm going to go background. I'm going to say choose image. I'm going to browse for it. I go to my downloads. I've got a ton of downloads, but here it is. Okay. All right, so what this does, it makes it the background. So the students can't do anything to it. They can't change it because I didn't want them to be able to change any of that. Okay, my original one, my teacher one, I still have editing access. Okay, so if I need to change anything, and go back to the teacher version, change what I need to, download as a PNG, right? And then upload to the student version. So you really have to have everything on the slide set first. Okay, and you know that it's finalized so that you don't have to mess with it again. Download it and then upload it as a background to the student version. Okay, so this is the other piece. Well, what do I do if I want a link on here? Okay, well, let's go here. So here is a link. I'm going to take this off. Okay, so you can see how I did this. Okay. So all of this is background. Actually, that is not background. I should make that background. Let's pretend that that's background. Okay, actually, let's do that real quick. All right. So let's explore the temple by clicking on the link. There we go. All right, so here we go. I need to download this. Okay, it's PNG. In my original. Now I'm going to go to my student version, and I want to add this as the background. So I'm going to choose my image. It's this one. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to make this interactive. Okay, so I'm going to go up here to shape, shape, and shape. And I'm going to put a shape over this, okay? But I want it clear. I want it transparent, okay? So I'm going to go to the paint bucket. I'm going to say transparent, okay? And I don't want the border. So I'm going to go up here to this border color, and I'm going to say transparent, okay? Before I do that, though, I want to link it, okay? So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to link, and I've got my link to the 360 here. So let me find Anger What, and I'm probably not saying it correctly. So here's the 360, and I'll show you real quick. Okay, so here it is. This is what makes it feel like a video game, all right? And the students can click here, here, and here, and they can actually explore the temple. But I'm going to start here and copy this. I'm going to paste here. Okay. And now I'm going to take this border off. Okay. So now it's clear, and students just click on it, and they can go to the link. Now you can sometimes find 360, like if you looked at the Everest Google Slides adventure, you'll notice that the actual video was embedded into the slide. And there are some great 360 videos on YouTube. And so if you find them on YouTube, you don't have to do a link. You can, if you have the name of the video or you have the link, you can go here, insert video, and you can put the URL or the link, or the name, I'm sorry, and it will embed it right here. Okay, because I'm using Google Street View Trex, it's a link. Okay, so it's your choice how you want to do it. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, go back and look at the Everest Google Slide Adventures, and you'll see that the videos, 360 video is actually embedded here. Okay, all right. The other thing is this little castle will take them back to the progression. So the same tech strategy that we just used, we're going to use again here, okay? So first off, this progression, we want to link each of these castles to to one of the slides, okay? So for instance, this first one, we want to link to this one here. We want to link to slide 4, okay? So we're going to use the same text skill. Use that shape, okay? I'm going to go ahead and link it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and link it. We're going to use the same strategies we used before. We're going to make it transparent, and we're going to make the border go away by choosing transparent. And so when students click on that, it's going to go to the correct slide. And then this little castle here, we want it to go to slide 2 so that it always takes them back to the progression slide. So we're going to use that same strategy, okay? Shape, okay? Let's go ahead and link it. Okay, slide 2. We're going to take the color off and make it transparent. We're going to take the border off and make it transparent. And so now when students click on it, it should go to slide 2. Okay. All right. I would love for you to pause this video and go ahead and create at least a few slides of your version of Google Slides Adventure. You can use the templates that I've started you out with, or if you want to create your own, you can certainly go ahead and do that. So click pause and get started. All right, so I hope you had fun creating your own Google Learning Adventure. These are some of the tech skills that you used today. You learned how to link slides. You learned how to set a background image. You learned how to create a transparent layer. And then if you watch this video, then you also learn how to create a hidden reveal text. If not, this video is here for you. So these are videos you can always come back to and watch again and again as many times as you need as you create more of these gamified, immersive learning experiences. So before we close today, I want to remind you of things to consider as you're adding those gamified pieces into your classroom. Whether you're truly doing gamification, where you add elements of gamification into a non-game setting like the classroom, or you create that immersive experience where the game is actually the learning experience, like Minecraft, teaching math through Minecraft, or a Google Slides learning adventure. Think about how you can add a social piece, especially students in middle school. They really love sharing information, learning from each other, and so that social piece is truly important. Maybe you can include a Flipgrid. You can include a collaborative Padlet. You might even include a question on a Google Classroom stream, or even pair up students so that they work together. Think about how you can add some friendly competition. Can you create that class leaderboard to show student progress against one another or themselves? Can you use a timer? Can you create badges for completion or levels? Can you include some sort of level up activity? And then how can you start using gamification? Start small. Just add one gaming element to a lesson and see how much more engaged your students are. All right, these are your last level up your knowledge. So pull out that piece of paper that we started with, that note-taking guide, or open it up on your digital screen. And question number 1, what is the average age of video game players? Jot down your ideas. So the average age is 31. I bet a lot of you thought teenagers or 18 or even your 20s, but I wonder how many of you actually thought it was 31. So what is the percentage of female and male video game players? Take a moment and jot down your ideas. So 55% are male and 45% are female. All right, third question. What age groups play video games? This is kind of a trick question, but the answer is all. So during the pandemic, when researchers did their annual research on gamification, they realized they had to add a new age group to who plays video games. And that age group is 65 plus. Now, every age group has a different reason for playing games. 65 plus, they play for a social reason, because mainly they're retired and it is a way to socialize. And they play to keep their mind sharp. All right, last question. How many video game players are there in the US? All right, the answer is 25 million. So that's a lot of gamers. And I bet some of you are gamers, along with some of your parents and some of your students, and maybe even some of your kids. So I hope some of that information surprised you and made you rethink your ideas about who are gamers. So take a few moments and read some of these statistics. They're quite interesting. And then I'm going to go to the next slide and give you some resources. So these are some articles and extra video examples to help you learn more about gamification. It's a way to level up. The Google Street View tracks are linked at the bottom, so make sure that you look at that. Those are awesome to add that global piece to your game, and any of these are really great. There's also, and I don't think I have it linked here, I wrote an article for Edutopia, and you can find it under my name, Kendra Cameron Jarvis, and it's about the process that we just talked about. So you might want to read about that as well. And these are some templates to get you started. Any of these are great. I do want to show you this one. If you're just starting with gamification, this is a great, an easy way to start. These are called dice breakers, and they look like this. Okay, they are icebreakers with digital dice, or you can use real dice, but they're get to know you questions. But there is one in here called the Dice Debrief that you can use with content. So you can put questions in there instead of questions about like social questions. You could put questions about content. They roll the dice and then they answer the question that they rolled. So this is an easy way to add gamification to your classroom. I did it with a group of middle schoolers and they really loved it. And the only thing I did different was add my questions that I would have asked anyway to this template and added the digital dice. And there is a link here. Actually, let me see if I can. You can download them. Let me see if I can click here. Let me see where you download them. Hang on. Here it is. So if you click here, you'll get your own copy. And then I want to show you the dice. All right. So here is the dice. And I like it. It even makes the sound. And the kids really like it. And this way it saves you money and a lot of mess by not having to use the physical dice. So I hope this was helpful today. You've got lots of templates to get started. And I hope that you love adding those little pieces of gamification into your classroom. And I really do hope that you see engagement increase. Thanks for leveling up your learning today with me. Take care.